Roll. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Mac and Black podcast. I am Oso Negro, the man on the from the Houston side of things. Mac is out this week, so you get to ride with me solo just probably for the next hour and a half, 2 hours or so. We'll touch on some topics that's been going on. Obviously, the NBA playoffs are on, and I would be a whole liar if I did not say that I have the Clippers taking on the Mavericks sitting right here on my computer as I got the screen up right now. The Clippers are up 3. What about 6:10 left to go? And then if you was watching earlier, you would have seen that the Milwaukee Bucks ended up pulling out that win against the Miami Heat earlier, 109-107 in overtime, which I thought going into that overtime was crazy because, man, dude, everyone's just looking at Jimmy Butler just going straight to the hole. No one wanted to stop him going to the hole. And if I'm not mistaken, wasn't that Giannis on him and let him just let Jimmy Butler just go freely to the hole, ties it up. But Milwaukee ends up still winning that game. I still think the Heat, I don't know, man. Like I'm very on the fence when it comes to the Milwaukee Bucks, not because of the talent. I'm just always on the fence about them because I don't trust their coach, Mark Budenholzer. I just don't. I don't. You know, I mean, here's a guy that once, remember, this is the same guy that once upon a time had the Atlanta Hawks with the best record in the East and couldn't even pull out a win against LeBron in the in the second round. Here's the same team the same coach who had the Toronto Raptors a couple years ago when Kawhi Leonard was down there. You had them down 2-0 and they came back and beat you 4 straight. And then you got out-coached again last year. So I don't know, man. I know Charles came out and said that he thought that what's his name? Oh my goodness, what is his name? That the Milwaukee Bucks were going to come out as the Eastern Conference, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm necessarily feeling that per se, but we'll see. Right now, Dallas is up 47-45 with about 5 minutes left to go here in the first half. Good game so far. You know, we're going to talk some baseball and stuff too. And we'll get into maybe a little wrestling talk later on as the show goes on. But, you know, as of right now, you know, I may mention earlier that, you know, there's this big old story coming out apparently of the Clippers supposedly tanking a couple of games so they didn't get the perennial 3rd spot to where that they would have to face the Lakers in the second round if they got out of the 1st spot. The only problem that I have with that is that, okay, so then you go down to the 4th spot, you're going to take on the Dallas Mavericks, who, oh, by the way, are no slouches. You know, there's no guarantee. Okay, yeah. So you're looking at, you know, at hindsight being 50-50, that if the Los Angeles Clippers can get past Dallas and if the Los Angeles Clippers get past the winner of the Utah and Memphis, but there's no guarantee you're going to get past Dallas. Dallas is no slouches. They're not. So I think personally, you know, it's almost as bad as when you're in like a deciding game 5, you know, in like, let's say the ALDS or something, and your ace is out there and you're trying to monitor his pitches in case we need him in game. Dude, you got to worry about the now, bro. You can't play chess. You know, there's a time to play chess and there's a time to play checkers. And I think sometimes when it just comes to the seeding of the playoffs, like you can't take that risk of, oh yeah, well, I wanted just to tank a couple of games because I didn't want to see the Los Angeles Lakers in the second round. You know, I'm trying to avoid them till we get to the conference finals. I think that's foolery, man. That's being scared. I think that's being scared. And if that's true, because think about it, every time they go to Tyronn Lue to talk about it, he dismisses the whole thing. Like he doesn't even want to talk about it. He's like, oh, you know, who cares if we tanked a couple of games so that we can, you know, so we wanted 4th instead of 3rd. Like, I don't think that's such a great idea because, Dallas is a really good basketball team. Sure, technically the Clippers should be better, but let's say if Dallas upsets you and takes you out in the series, where do the Clippers go from there? Because at the end of the day, you pretty much have a lot locked in between Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. And I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but what if Kawhi gets so upset? And remember, this man has an opt-out clause at the end of the year. He can opt out of his contract if he wants to. I'm not saying he will. He's from the Los Angeles area, if I'm not mistaken. So he's pretty much close to home, but that whole I want to play close to home to my family only goes so long if you're not winning championships with the team. I know, what is Kawhi? A 3-time champ, twice with San Antonio and once with the Toronto Raptors, but still. I think you win out. I think you want to go into the playoffs with some kind of momentum. You don't want to lose a couple of games and then going with a team with momentum. And that's why I think Dallas was. Remember, a couple of months ago, we were talking about potentially maybe Dallas not even making the playoffs and they were bad. And we were talking about the job of Rick Carlisle. Could he be on the hot seat? And then Dallas just got real hot. Luka took over. KP got healthy. Tim Hardaway's playing a better role, being a better role player. Everything started coming around to Dallas and they were good enough to be the 5th best team. You know what I'm saying? So that's why, I don't know. I just think that it's crazy that you would sacrifice, momentum because you're scared of what's going to happen with the Lakers because, we just saw recently, the Golden State Warriors just got eliminated out of the play-in tournament. And for what it's worth, and this is kind of the issue that I had with baseball, because everyone's like, everyone's talking about, you're going to water down the product if you're putting in too many playoff teams and this and that. Nah, because when you get to that playoff mode, nobody cares about, what happened in the regular season because, if you are better than the team that you're playing, it shouldn't matter where you're at, right? So, in baseball, I thought what they did last year, the little 3-game play-in at whoever's the home stadium for all 3 games leads to the DS, which leads to the CS, which leads to which leads to the World Series. And I think that it's feasible. I think it's possible. I think it can happen. And maybe one of the best things that Major League Baseball can do is maybe cut a few games, right? Wouldn't be such against the law, correct? But then here's the crazy part. Then you go later on, and then it's kind of like, you're looking at the NBA right now where, everyone's talking about, you're bringing in 2 extra playoff teams and watered down. But I bet you a lot of people looked at those playing games. That playing game especially in the Western Conference, were some really amazing games. LeBron James, clutch 3-pointer, sinks the Warriors. Ja Morant comes out. So Steph Curry got beat by arguably the best basketball player going right now in LeBron James, and then got beat by one of the most up-and-coming point guards in the game in Ja Morant. And what's funny about that is this is the same Steph Curry who Max Kellerman came out and was arguing on First Take, and we all saw the argument, and we all saw what the premise was Steph Curry wasn't even the best player on the court. He may not even been the best 3 or 4 players on the court. Come on, man. Steph Curry's been to 5 finals. He's won 3. He's won no MVP. He's won no finals MVP. He got beat out by Andre Iguodala. The man's got beat out by Andre Iguodala, and when it came up clutch, Steph Curry came up short. And I know the whole, he's not gonna have no help, this, that, and everything else. But I thought that was the whole precedent of what got him into the top 3 voting for MVP. Darn it, I missed that debate. I'm just talking about, Oh, you're talking about the Max Kellerman debate. I mean, Max Kellerman came out and basically said that LeBron James has more or less hurt Steph's legacy because LeBron James has been better than Steph in an X amount of finals. And at the end of the day, Steph can't carry a team like LeBron can. I think that's really what Max Kellerman was trying to say, is that LeBron James or that Steph Curry can't carry a team like LeBron James can. This is the same LeBron James who had Smush Parker as his starting point guard when he went to the finals in, what was it, his third year in the league with Cleveland back in 2007 it was? LeBron James beat the almighty Detroit Pistons, who had just come off of back-to-back NBA Finals appearances, with one of them leading into an NBA championship. And yet we still keep questioning LeBron James's his legacy. And the sickening part is that people who hate on LeBron James will always focus on his losses. But at the end of the day, I see a guy who at the end of the day is a 4-time NBA champion. So what's the argument? Like, what's the issue? You know what I'm saying? And where was Max Kellerman wrong? I mean, LeBron James, in every year that he has been in the playoffs, what is it, like the last 8 or 9 years, he's taken his team to the finals. And here's the crazy part about it. Some of those finals teams he had with the super teams that he tried to create, half of those dudes were hurt. Like, dude, how many times was Kevin Love ever a factor in any NBA finals? Even in the one that he won when Cleveland in the miracle block that led to the Kyrie 3. I don't even think Kevin Love was even on the floor for that whole sequence. Kevin Love, at the end of the day, ended up being that guy that Mark Jackson used to always hate on, because I remember one year where Danny Granger had made the All-Star team over a couple other guys because he was averaging like 27 points a game, but the Indiana Pacers were not that great. And like he said, great players, good players are going to put up good numbers on bad teams. On bad teams. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know, dude. Or Kevin Love comes out and averages like, what was it, like 20 and 10, and was doing all this stuff in Minnesota. Dude, Minnesota sucked. He was the only guy that was worth talking about. When he came to Cleveland, I mean, obviously he was a shell of himself, because now you have the almighty that is LeBron James on the court. But I don't feel like Kevin Love really brought to those Cleveland teams what they expected from him when they traded for him. When you trade an Andrew Wiggins, the number 1 pick in the draft, for Kevin Love. The same Kevin Love that when I remember one game when the Timberwolves took on the Knicks and the Knicks beat them, and they was talking to Tyson Chandler, and they're like, man, how did you have this 2020 game? He said, Kevin Love doesn't play defense. The game ain't changed. So you go out there and you're looking at the so-called MVP. Everyone was so ready to give Steph Curry the MVP because this man is just shooting out of the gym. And then, this is the same Steph Curry who CP3 came out and said, I'm a better point guard than Steph Curry. The only thing that he does better than me is shoot. Where's the lie, bro? As Luka hits a step back 3. Where's the lie? CP3 has proven to take mediocre teams and make them better than they are. Are the Los Angeles Clippers even relevant if Lob City didn't have CP3? Are the Phoenix Suns this year the best team in the West, or second best team in the West, if they don't have a CP3? The Oklahoma City Thunder sucked balls this year. They were so bad, then they were expected to be, but they were so bad that they bench out Horford for the last half of the season just so that they can get a good draft pick. CP3 last year had basically this same team in the playoffs. Steph Curry without Klay Thompson is basically, at this point, a ninth place point guard. Where's the lie? Steph Curry at this point is a ninth place point guard without Klay Thompson. And I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be at the least bit shocked where if the Warriors don't win a championship in the next 2 years, I wouldn't be shocked if Steph Curry's on the trade block. As a matter of fact, I think he's a free agent next summer. I wouldn't be shocked if he tests the market. If either he tests the market or the Warriors are basically going to say, you know what, it's time to kind of move on. We're going to go in a different direction. Let's see what we can get from Steph. Because Steph just proved right now that unless he has the proper pieces around him, it's not going to work. As a matter of fact, the Golden State Warriors pretty much proved that if they don't have guys that are hitting shots at amazing clip, they're basically just an average 6th to 10th place team. And they just proved it this year. Because most people will clown the Golden State Warriors for taking James Wiseman over LaMelo Ball. But I wouldn't clown them for that because you didn't need LaMelo Ball, because where are you going to put him next year in the log jam, a plethora of talent, unless you're going to get rid of Klay or you're going to get rid of Steph. James Wiseman made a lot of sense because he was a big guy who could stretch the floor. The only thing that sucks is James Wiseman, in my opinion, might be 2 years away from really hitting that potential. Like, you saw shades of it this year, but he was basically only good enough for them to be a ninth place basketball team who got beat by a younger, more energetic, and a team that technically talent-wise should be better than the Golden State Warriors. I mean, I personally think Nikola Jokic is the MVP of the league anyway. And I know Nick Wright came out and said, oh, if Nikola Jokic is the MVP, then it'll be the worst MVP we've ever had, or the worst MVP in like 40 years, or, you know, Nick Wright doing whatever Jackson and Finetti's do. But at the end of the day, you know, I think that's unfair. Look how together the Denver Nuggets maintained to be after they lost Jamal Murray. If there's no Nikola Jokic, the Denver Nuggets aren't even in they're not even in the playoffs. Wiggins never took the next step. Draymond missed a game-winning layup. Exactly. And if Klay Thompson was in there, we're not even talking about Draymond missing a wide open layup, because that ball probably never goes to his hands. And think about it like that. Like, at the end of the day, I mean, who's more valuable on this team, Steph or Klay? You know, we can't even, you know, at the end of the day, I can't even answer that because we've never really seen Klay with no Steph. We've seen right now Steph with no Klay, but we've never really seen Klay with no Steph, because when we could have seen Klay with no Steph, Klay was hurt. I mean, yeah, and I agree with you. Wiggins never took the next step. That's a lot of pressure to put on a kid that's on what's supposed to be a championship caliber team. Andrew Wiggins is not Klay Thompson. Andrew Wiggins could only dream of shooting up. Dude, Andrew Wiggins could only daydream about dropping 60 points and only dribbling the ball 12, what was it, like 11, 12, 13 times? That's insane. Andrew Wiggins is not that. I don't think it's that he took the next step. You know what I think it was? I think there was way too much pressure put on Andrew Wiggins, and we feel like he didn't take the next step because we wanted Andrew Wiggins to fill in that hole of what Klay Thompson was, and it didn't work out. Because I'll tell you this, if it's Klay, Steph, and Draymond, I think they would have been the 7th seed. As a matter of fact, they probably would have been in the playoff tournament. They probably would have been in the play-in tournament. I think maybe Portland falls into that 7-8 spot with LA, and then you had Dame and you had Carmelo versus LeBron, Portland versus the Lakers. That's what I think. Right now, the game's at halftime. The Mavericks lead LA 60-55. We're going to get into some other topics later on. We're going to get into a little bit of wrestling later on. We're going to get into a little bit of some Major League Baseball going on. White Sox fans right now, salty as balls. But I guess there's a lot of controversy that's going on right now. And that's going on in White Sox land with Tony La Russa. I kept hearing all this nonsense. Watch out for Yermin Mercedes. Here comes Yermin Mercedes. Yermin Mercedes is so good. Here he comes. He's going to be great. He's going to rock the Yankees. Nonsense. Nonsense. We'll get into that later on. Darnell says, got your Knicks in 7. Yes, sir. They play tomorrow. They play tomorrow evening. I'll be out working tomorrow, but you had best believe there's a way I got that game on. You ain't got to tweak about that. There's no way I'm missing that. But, I got to get the bread, too. So we knock out 2 birds with a stone. Atlanta's going to be without Cam Reddish. I guess Cam Reddish is out with what is like a knee or an ankle injury that's going to keep him out for the first round. So that's a huge loss for the Hawks. But, I think another thing was, Nate McMillan came out and made those comments talking about how, he basically feels as if they're playing the Knicks in the NBA because how it's such a great storyline that the New York Knicks would be as far as they are. I mean, dude, that's giving the Knicks bulletin board material. The last thing you want to do is give a team that nobody thought was going to. Let me talk about that for a second, because you know that the top 3 awards came out and the Knicks actually the Knicks have players in 3 of the 4 categories, which is most improved player. That was with it was Michael Porter Jr., Julius Randle, and I can't think of the third person. And then you had 6th man of the year, which is Jordan Clarkson, Joe Ingles, and Derrick Rose. And Derrick Rose pretty much came out and said that he could care less about winning the 6th man award. He's just ready to play in the playoffs. And I love that mentality. And then you got Tibbs along with Quinn Snyder and Monty Williams as the 3 finalists for Coach of the Year. And no knock against Quinn Snyder and no knock against Monty Williams. But look at it like this. The reason why I think that Tom Thibodeau should get huge consideration for the Coach of the Year, look at it like this. The biggest powerhouses, okay, Philly, Brooklyn, and Milwaukee, we all knew were going to be good. We knew that. We thought Brooklyn was going to be the overwhelming favorite. We knew Philly was going to be better because they have a better head coach in Doc. And then we knew that Milwaukee was going to be good because they got Giannis. So you didn't know, like some people say it's going to be Brooklyn's going to be better. Some people say it's going to be Philly. Some people are going to say Milwaukee, but they were in that top 3. But if you're going to tell me outside of the top 3, who would be the best team in the East outside of the top 3 of Milwaukee, Brooklyn, and Philadelphia, There is not a single person in the world, unless you're a true homer. And I love the New York Knicks as if they were my first child. If I had children, the New York Knicks to me would be like my first child, right? And sometimes you hold a more of a special bond with the first child sometimes than you do with the other children. And what I'm saying is the Knicks have a more special place in my heart, and that's not a knock against the other teams, but they got a real special place in my heart, right? So when they win, I smile a little bit harder. I flex a little bit stronger. You know, I yell a little bit louder because I want to see the Knicks succeed. And if you're going to tell me that out of the big three, the best team in the East were going to be the New York Knicks, 99.99% of people would have called you an idiot. But at the end of the season, the best team in the East, not named Milwaukee, Philly, and Brooklyn, were the New York Knicks. And that's exactly why Tom Thibodeau should be coach of the year. Easily. Because think about it like this. The Phoenix Suns did not get better because Monty Williams did something different. The Phoenix Suns got better because they got one of the better leaders and facilitating point guards in the game in Chris Paul, who might as well be a coach on the court. That's how you improve if you're the Phoenix Suns, you know, the way that they did. If you're the Utah Jazz pretty much are the same team they were last year. And it's no knock against Quinn Snyder. But the reason why the Jazz were so good was because Donovan Mitchell played more like an MVP than I think that they gave him credit. Now, when he went down, the Jazz were still able to hold it together. So I'll give Quinn Snyder more credit on that. But you were going to say that when you're talking about the top teams in the West, you're talking about the Lakers, obviously. And then you're going to talk about the Clippers, probably, obviously. Not necessarily unanimously, obviously, but probably, obviously. The biggest oxymoron you'll probably hear me say on this show, but maybe, probably, obviously, right? And then, you know, you could have maybe sprinkled Utah in there because you're going to say maybe the Utah Jazz at some point, you know, maybe they could take that next step up. We're ready for them to take that next step up. And they did, and they got real hot. I remember they took a loss to the Knicks in Madison Square Garden when they were actually up on the Knicks by like 15 points, and the Knicks came back. And after that loss, they reeled off that huge like 14, 15 game win streak. Forgetting how the Phoenix Suns played in the bubble last season, 58-22. Okay, so they were already hot going into the year. And then you add in CP3. So my question is that a Monty Williams we got better? Or is that a Chris Paul we got better? I think that's a Chris Paul we got better. Because if Chris Paul is not on the Suns, do they make the playoffs? Yes. Are they the second best team in the West? Hell no. Not without CP3. Not without Chris Paul, he ain't. But let's go back to the New York Knicks. Knicks won't make the playoffs. Knicks still a mess. Jim Dolan is still the owner. Yeah, you brought on Leon Rose. Now you're going to bring in Tibbs. Tibbs wears down his players. He wears them out. They get tired after a little bit. People get too worn down. They get too injured. But what did Tom Thibodeau do with these Knicks? You know, and I think it's one thing that's worth noting that, you know, maybe outside of Derrick Rose and his MVP season, you know, and maybe outside of Jimmy Butler, like what other high profile guys has Tom Thibodeau coached? See, the problem that happened in Minnesota is the fact that it's just Minnesota. And at the end of the day, I think Minnesota could end up being a team that may not be in Minnesota anymore, Like if you're really gonna extradite a team from where they at to where they need to be, like taking Minnesota and put them in Seattle, is that really that bad of a move? Because no offense, dude, there's no sex appeal in Minnesota. None. None. Darnell says, don't finally shut up and let Tom do his job. We didn't hear from thing all season. Exactly, dude. Exactly. And that's the thing I've been saying all year. All James Dolan needs to do is sign the checks. You brought in a guy in Leon Rose who has nothing but respect amongst everybody in the NBA and has a few small in connects just in case if he needs to make a move. He might know a few people here and there where he could pull some strings and make some moves to make the Knicks better. He hired Tom Thibodeau. He let Tom do his job. He let Leon and Scott Perry do their job. The Knicks are the fourth best team in the East. Bingo. And think about it. Here's another thing that no one talks about. The reason why I think that Tom Thibodeau is also coach of the year is because the New York Knicks really didn't do anything in the trade deadline. The Bulls did to seemingly make themselves better, so we thought. The Indiana Pacers did to make themselves better, so we thought. The Boston Celtics made a move to make themselves better, so we thought. But the team that stood pat and really just traded Austin Rivers for ultimately a draft pick still remained the fourth, the best team in the East, not named Milwaukee, Philly, and Brooklyn, dude. Come on. Tom Thibodeau is easily coach of the year. Now, do I think Julius Randle's most improved player of the year? Sure, I do. Do I think he's going to win it? I don't know, because Michael Porter Jr. was kind of a monster all year too. So I could see it kind of coming down between Porter Jr. and Randle, but I wouldn't lose sleep over that. And if Derrick Rose doesn't care about sixth man of the year award, then neither do I. So I don't care about those two. But I really think Tom Thibodeau deserves to be coach of the year this year. I really do. I really do. And then you got the other playoff matchups coming up. Phoenix and the Lakers. Are you kidding me? Darnell says Quinn coach of the year, Julius most improved player. Hold on a second. And Rose or Clarkson for sixth man of the year. I personally think it's going to be Jordan Clarkson. I really do. I think it's going to be Jordan Clarkson. But again, what's his name don't care. Derrick Rose, if he wins it or not. So we'll see. Right now they just started the second half or the third quarter, with Dallas up by 3, 60-57. So we just saw the 3-6 in the East. You got 2-7. That's Brooklyn against Boston. That's going to be a nice matchup. The real question is which Boston you going to see the Tatum 50? Are you going to see the Tatum 50? Is that the 50 we're going to see? Is that the Jason Tatum we're going to see? Is that the Boston Celtics we're going to see? Because this is going to get real dangerous. It's going to get real dangerous if Brooklyn somehow assembles all their pieces. And what's that show? The Power Rangers, when they all became the Megazord. It's going to be dangerous if all the Brooklyn pieces come together. And between Harden and between KD and between Kyrie, like I really think the X factor for Brooklyn is really James Harden. I think James Harden is the biggest X factor in for Brooklyn, because James Harden, like, okay, it's something about James Harden, especially with the way that his game is, that like, okay, if you're Kevin Durant, right? If you're Kevin Durant, 9 times out of 10, you're Kevin Durant. The first time the ball hits your hands, your first reaction is going to shoot, right? With Kyrie, he's going to dribble down and he's going to do his thing, and 9 times out of 10, he's going to shoot. With James Harden, I think James Harden controls the tempo because he's not sure if he wants to shoot or if he's not sure if he sees somebody. So he's gonna juke with you for a little bit. And I think if James Harden sees that I can get you on the ankles, I'm gonna pop the 3. If he thinks you're lacking, he's gonna pop the 3. If he thinks you're too tight, he's gonna blow right by you. If he's gonna set and pick and roll, he's gonna find somebody. He's that ultimate felicitator. James Harden is. And that's why I think it's so important for him to be back in the playoffs. Darnell said that he thinks it's the Nets in 6. I think it's the Nets in 5, personally. And then that's going to start bringing up questions of what's going to happen with the Boston Celtics after this. Do you keep Brad Stevens? Do you move along? Do you feel Danny? Okay, here's another question. Do you feel like Danny Ainge is still capable of doing his job? Remember, we all thought that Danny Ainge was supposed to be this insane, unknown, genius of the Celtics, and here's a guy that somehow fleeced the Brooklyn Nets into giving him a top 3 pick, and they drafted Jason Tatum, and Danny Ainge is this great guy. Do the Boston Celtics haven't even sniffed the finals since they traded disassembled the big 3? They haven't even sniffed it. So how many more free passes? Just like I kept saying about Doc Rivers. And one of the things that kills me about Doc is I feel like he's a really good coach. But, dude, a lot of these guys, the coaching staff and some of the players and whatnot, since they left that Boston team, haven't been on squad. Like, who's really only won championships since then? Rajon Rondo, Ray Allen. But come on, man. After that, dude, Boston hasn't done squat. Like, call a spade a spade. What have they done? You came up short against the Heat. Like, what have they done, dude? So maybe it's time to move on from Brad Stevens. You tried it. It almost worked for a little bit. They looked amazing, but man, you mean to tell me that Danny Ainge can't score on a point guard because Kemba Walker ain't it? See, Boston needs like a CP3 like point guard. They keep trying to bring in these shoot first guys, but I think they need a pass first guy. Like, okay, it's not the sexiest name in the world, but. And I'm not saying that they would be any better with them than they are right now, but like a Ricky Rubio almost, a guy that's more pass first, that's more felicitating because you already got guys that can score. You don't need another one. Bringing in a guy like Kyrie, who is a ball dominant point guard, you take away from Tatum, you take away from Brown. A guy like Kemba Walker, who's not really known for dropping 20 dimes in a game. He's a ball-dominant point guard. That's what they need. They need someone that's more of a ball-dominant point guard. And I think that's what's going to ultimately cause I think that's where Danny Ainge has fallen flat in the last, maybe 4 or 5 years. They can't figure out their point guard situation. Not having Jaylen Brown hurts Boston, and the big 3 are all good to go. Boston has to score 120 to beat Brooklyn. Yeah, but in the same breath, Brooklyn can't turn around. I mean, it's not like Boston's the greatest defensive team ever. They're good. They're not, but if Boston drops 120, you're going to tell me the Brooklyn Nets can't drop 135? So, I mean, I'm giving Boston small chance, but I don't see it happening. And then Philly gets Washington. That's going to be a good one. You know, and give the Washington Wizards some kind of credit, because here's a team they were talking about remember in the beginning of the year, the Westbrook thing isn't working. Bradley Beal may not be happy. Do you trade for Bradley Beal? What's the trade market? And then Bradley Beal turns around and says, I don't really want to get traded. I want to stay around. Let's figure this out. And somewhere something clicked, and Russell Westbrook ended up being himself, Mr. Triple-Double himself, and Bradley Beal adjusted to around Westbrook, and now they're the 8th best team in the league. I mean, they get the AC. I think that's going to be an interesting series because I want to see this playoff Westbrook. I want to see what Westbrook is going to do in the playoffs in the East. And let me say this too, and this is going to come off crazy, but I'm kind of wondering where the Washington Wizards are thought process wise about where they're at in their future. Because if you want to be real about it, I've been thinking about what could be the plausible reasons on why the Washington Wizards acquired Russell Westbrook, especially for John Wall. Here's the crazy part. And I understand that the Houston Rockets don't have a Bradley Beal, but man, dude, John Wall goes to Houston. That team is trash. Russell Westbrook comes over, and that team was probably one of the hottest teams going down the last month of the season. Crazy. But I'm anxious to see this playoff Westbrook. But I think Philly's going to be too much. They're too big for Washington. Way too big. Wow, look at that. Tim Hardaway Jr. Man, that's a guy right there, all the athleticism in the world and still struggling to pull it together. I mean, I think Tim Hardaway Jr. is a really good basketball player. It's just waiting for him to kind of put it all together. The man can get to the hole. I think if he got like a consistent jump shot, dude, the man's so athletic and everything. So, but right now, Dallas is still winning by 6 with about 7:17 left in the third quarter in the first game of that matchup. I actually have Dallas upsetting the Clippers in 7 on that one. Oh, yeah, I forgot a matchup in the weeds. Oh, yeah, it would be my own. I got the Knicks winning in 6 games. I think Tom Thibodeau has done a great job with the New York Knicks not being caught up in the moment. The questions that I have surrounding with the New York Knicks is going to be how the rotations are going to be. We've been hearing rumors that there's a great chance that we could see a lot more Frank Ntilikina for his defense on Trae Young. If you go back to that last game against Atlanta, that game that Trae Young got hurt in, had he not gotten hurt, I don't think the Knicks win that basketball game. Because the Knicks had such a hard time defending the pick and roll with Trae Young. And then obviously because the Knicks aren't really that big, Clint Capella was having himself a hell of a game. But once Trae Young got hurt and now they could focus on the pick and roll and not be confused on what's going to happen, the Knicks were able to come back. But having Frank Ntilikina out there, who's clearly your best defender guard-wise, point guard-wise, would not be too bad. Because Elfrid Payton, like, I want to like him, but dude, he pisses me off so bad. Like, okay, let's take the game that we just had against Boston. This man really tried to go to the rim and dunk a basketball over 7'6" Taco Fall. Like, that wasn't even a layup try. It was a dunk try. And I'm just like, dude, something's got to give. especially when it comes to Elfrid Payton. So, we'll see. I think personally, everyone's like, why don't you start Derrick Rose? Why don't you start Derrick Rose? Because the way the rotations are set up, you don't want to start off the rotation. Like, you don't want to mess it up because you want to bring in, what's his name, so bad. We got to bring in Derrick Rose. You got to start, can't afford to start off slow, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's what Julius is for. That's what RJ is for. What Reggie Bullock is for. It's for the guys. Brian says, who comes out of the East? I think the Nets would be tough to beat if the big three stays healthy. I want to say the Nets, but I really think it could be Philadelphia. I think Philly is just too big. I think that if, and I do mean if, Philly met Brooklyn in the Eastern Conference Finals, I think it's really going to be tough for Brooklyn because who's guarding Joel Embiid? And then if you're not guarding Joel Embiid, okay, well, here comes Ben Simmons. And everyone's like, well, Nick, Ben Simmons can't shoot. Still a 6'10 playmaker who can get to the hole and do a whole lot of other things. Plus, I could see Ben Simmons giving KD fits. I could see Joel Embiid giving somebody fits. I could see that. I think that'd be a great series, but I could see that. I'm right now just kind of looking at some of these highlights right now. Man, they're letting them play down there in Los Angeles. But like I said, as far as this Western Conference playoffs are concerned, I definitely have Dallas on the upset in 7. I got the Lakers in 6 over Phoenix. I do. I really think with the Lakers, the King is coming back. Okay, the King is back. Not that he's coming back, he's back. And he made his presence known, popping a 3-pointer once again, a 3-point shot of LeBron James sinking the hearts of the Golden State Warriors. A la when he hit that 3 when he was in Miami and he hit that 3 against Golden State. Darnell says the Clips in 3. He's got the Lakers in 7. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sold on the Los Angeles Clippers. I'm just not sold on them. And you know who it is? I'm not sold on playoff P, way off P. Playoff P. I don't even think what's his name's I don't even think Paul George. Every time I look up, this man shooting up bricks. Darnell says Nuggets in 6, Jazz in 6. I like the Nuggets in 6. I'm going to say the Jazz in 7, but I would be careful with, what's the name? With the Memphis Grizzlies. When you're that young team with nothing to lose, you play like that. But I say the Jazz because they're the number 1 seed, but I wouldn't be shocked if Memphis came in with the upset, though. Man, 50 minutes in the show, and I've been talking nothing but basketball. Let's go. I know Darnell, I think, is still watching, just to kind of transition away from basketball. And hey, if you guys want to continue to talk basketball, dude, just keep commenting your thoughts and stuff on the NBA so far. I've really have been basketball dominant so far with the playoffs being here. Duh, why wouldn't I be? And we're gonna get to some other stuff as well. We're gonna get into. I actually do want to talk some wrestling while it's fresh in my head because I just got done watching SmackDown after I came home from dashing last night, and I am very impressed with SmackDown, dudes. Darnell says Donovan Mitchell, Spidey is back. Donovan Mitchell is back for Utah. Hey, that's a huge factor for him. But again, it's going to be a fun series. I don't really see anyone really getting swept. If there's one team that could potentially get swept, it could be the Boston Celtics. That's that's a stretch. But man, dude, these NBA playoffs are going to be fun. They're going to be fun. They already are fun. We just saw the overtime thriller between Milwaukee and Miami. It's already going to be fun. I was saying I got done watching a SmackDown yesterday. I watched the WrestleMania Backlash about a week or so ago. Well, actually, it was Sunday. So I watched WrestleMania Backlash, and then that turned into me watching Raw. And the thing about Raw is that I like that they're going away from Drew a little bit, even though you're still kind of keeping Drew in the WWE title picture. I would actually like to see Drew take a back seat, maybe feud a little bit with Sheamus, even though I still kind of like the Ricochet Sheamus thing going. I would really like to see Drew and Sheamus kind of go for the United States title. I think that would be kind of cool because I really like what they did as far as maybe trying to build up Kofi a little bit, maybe give him another title push. Darnell says Uso versus Street Profits next Friday. Now let's talk about that as Kawhi Leonard just straight up postered, just put somebody on the poster. I can't tell who it was. And LA is going psycho flipping nuts. Kawhi with the strip. I can't tell who that is. I can't tell who that is, but Kawhi Leonard just posterized somebody over there from Dallas. But yeah, I want to talk about that SmackDown show because they're really pushing what I thought was going to happen. So hear me out on, because first off, I think this whole storyline between Jay Uso, Jimmy Uso, Roman Reigns, and I guess yesterday I kind of see what Paul Heyman brings to the table. I still think Jay Uso could have cut maybe not as majestic as a promo, but getting the point across promo like Paul Heyman just did. I think he still could have done that, but I kind of see his role. But I like what they're doing with this because there's so many possibilities. Like, first off, I think that they're still going to push Big E into the title picture somehow. But they won't push Big E into the title picture until the Usos become a tag team, because I think putting a face Jimmy right now with a heel Jay and Jimmy getting on Jay to not be the bitch to Roman Reigns, and the way that they're going about it and the way that I like Roman Reigns being heel right now, I think SmackDown is the superior show. And even though as much as I hate Sami Zayn and I think he's boring, I thought the way that they ended the Intercontinental event, and that's why you give it to Apollo Crews, because even though Apollo Crews is very talented, he's still the best of the mid-carders. And a guy like Sami Zayn, if he was ever to win it again, and maybe if you even push on, maybe I think the Shinsuke versus Baron Corbin and everything Shinsuke is doing to keep his crown. And as much as Baron Corbin can be boring from time to time basis, and I think he's getting better, that's a great storyline. Whatever Fox told the WWE to do, to change, to make people watch, has worked. And when the USA Network gets the balls to do the same thing, the WWE will be a better product overall, because I don't think that Backlash was that bad of a pay-per-view. It wasn't the greatest thing I've ever seen, but it wasn't terrible. It was decent. It was a decent show. Now, outside of the Miz potentially tearing his ACL, and there's no telling how long he's going to be out. But I think seemingly, I really think that I think that Superior SmackDown is the superior show. I think Raw has the talent it has the potential to get there. It has it. You know what I'm saying? Having Bobby Lashley lose to Kofi, job to Kofi, to hype up what could be a Hell in a Cell match is gold. It's a step in the right direction. Don't regurgitate another Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre match. Yes, you can keep Drew involved, but we don't need Drew in the match unless ultimately you're going to turn Drew McIntyre heel and somehow turn on the New Day because you feel that Kofi Kingston is in your way for the WWE title. I'm okay with that. But I think somewhere, Raw's got to get a little bit better. First of all, I still think that the fact that they're on for 3 hours is stupid. If SmackDown can knock out a killer show in 2 hours, Raw can do the same exact thing. The same thing. Oh, yeah, by the way, rest in peace to New Jack. That happened earlier in the week. New Jack died of a heart attack. Dude, that's 2 black men now who have now died of heart attacks. We just saw DMX a couple of weeks ago or a few weeks ago die from complications of a heart attack. Now we've seen New Jack die of complications of a heart attack. Man, if this ain't the time to start checking your health and making sure you're straight and everything, it's just a lot of people. This is a lot of people dying right now. And it's all, people are not, everyone wants to live for the moment and whatnot. Man, New Jack 58, DMX was 50. It's still kind of on the young side. But I do promise that I'm gonna catch up on a lot of these documentaries that are out. I do want to watch some of these documentaries that have been out. I haven't been able to check a lot of them out yet because I still watch a lot of shoot interviews on YouTube. And if you're a wrestling fan, like Conrad, I can't think of what his last name is, but I watch a lot of his shoot interviews. I was watching a shoot interview with Jeff Jarrett the other day, and he was talking about how he literally held the WWE up for $300,000 and almost didn't do a job to China because he didn't get paid. I like listening to them shoot interviews to try and get like an insight of what the business is like. I like shoot interviews. Who did you like to wrestle with? Who did you not like wrestle with? Tell me about this. Tell me about the Montreal Screwdriver. That's why I like listening to a lot of stuff of Jim Cornette, because remember, he was in a lot of the creative, his undesirable hate towards Sable and his undesirable hate towards Shawn Michaels. So I want to check some of those out. I'm going to check those out. I'm going to have that one day where I'm just sitting there just watching nothing but wrestling documentaries all day and night. It's crazy. I'm looking at the schedule right now, and they're saying that the Philly Washington game is at 1:00 tomorrow. And I was like, dude, why aren't the Knicks playing at noon? Oh, yeah, that's right. Because the Yankees sweeping the White Sox will interfere with that tomorrow. I know there's a lot of people like, Nick, how come you don't talk about AEW that much? I don't really watch a lot of AEW. I don't. Like, I really have to get into it to really enjoy it. Like, I have it saved on my DVR, but it's not like my go-to to watch anything, It's just, I don't know, dude. Like, I'm okay with cross promoting, but am I okay with Kenny Omega winning the TNA Impact Heavyweight Championship? Not really, because what does it do for TNA? It's almost the same equivalent when for whatever reason, Vince McMahon won the ECW championship. It doesn't make sense. Thank you, Darnell. I'm glad you brought that up. WWE going in tour in July here in Texas, July 16th. I believe that's a Friday. SmackDown, Toyota Center. I will be looking at tickets. There's no way I'm going to sit here and tell you how SmackDown is a superior show and not go to SmackDown to watch said superior show. There's no way. I think they're in the Toyota Center the 16th, and I think the following week they're in Dallas, Fort Worth, and then I think somewhere in there they're going to go to Florida. There you go. Money in the Bank pay-per-view, July 18th, Fort Worth. Yeah. We'll see, because Dallas, Fort Worth from Houston is a solid 3.5 hour drive. So we'll see. But you know how far the Toyota Center is from where I live? Maybe 15 minutes if you're lucky. I could do a 15-minute drive any day of the week. I'm so looking forward to SmackDown. I've been to plenty of Raws, but it's been a long time since I've been to SmackDown. Because usually, especially the way they did it in Chicago, a lot of times they would do the pay-per-view in Chicago. Maybe they would do Raw in Chicago, but then they would do SmackDown in Milwaukee. In Milwaukee from Chicago is like a 2-hour drive. But I didn't feel like driving to Milwaukee. Oh, snap. Dallas is up on LA right now, 86-80, going into the fourth quarter. Not like they said the fourth quarter is coming to an end, but going to the fourth quarter. So, yeah, hey, again, I'm liking SmackDown. I think SmackDown's a really good show. I think Fox having their hands in the way of creative, which is what it sounds like. I think it's a smart idea. And I think USA needs to do the same thing. You know, it's funny. I was talking to my buddy earlier and he was like, man, you got to bring back the Attitude Era. You got to bring back the Attitude Era. And I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Bringing back the Attitude Era is like NBA fans crying about the 90s NBA. Man, I love it when the 90s NBA was so much better. BS. The talent pool for the NBA now is at least 50 times better than it was in the 90s. Like, I put up this small video of like Michael Jordan just torching D+ talent, and everyone was like, oh my God, LeBron James wouldn't average 30 in the 90s NBA. Why? Because everyone acts like everyone in the 90s played like the bad boy Detroit Pistons, and it was far from it. For every Detroit Pistons team out there, there was, the Los Angeles Clippers. You know what I'm saying? There was, give me a team. The then Washington Bullets. The then Cleveland Cavaliers. And not the Sean Kemp Cleveland Cavaliers. Not the Craig Elo Cleveland Cavaliers. Not the Michael Jordan just hit a game-winning shot in Craig Elo's face. Cleveland Cavaliers. No. Not the Brad Daugherty. I'm talking about the garbage Cleveland Cavaliers. Seriously. And that's why I feel like the Attitude Era is now. Because the way the world is working right now, the Attitude Era will not work. So you're trying to figure out a way to make it work, because the WWE put themselves in a position where they cater to little kids. That's why you can't let John Cena turn heel. It will be too much heat on the WWE that I don't think that they want, and I don't think that they're going to be able to handle. See, when you let Hulk Hogan turn heel was because when we were teenagers, the sensitivity of the world wasn't so high. Teenagers nowadays, man, there's a lot of sensitive people out there nowadays. Seriously. So you can't do what we grew up on. Like, you can't have Edge and Lita have what looked to be a live sex celebration in the middle of the ring during the ruthless aggression era of the WWE and not think that they're going to get phone calls from somebody saying this is inappropriate. Like, you can get away with that when we were kids because more or less we didn't care. But now that there's such easier access, because think about it like this. Like, let's be real for a sec, okay? When we were growing up, the internet wasn't as hot and access to stuff wasn't as easy. So our parents were probably like, oh, it's just a little cleavage. You know, boys will be boys. You're just seeing a little cleavage. You know, you're seeing a bikini match or something, or whatever the case may be, because this is probably as far as they will go, because we know as parents that we still have a lock and we still have a way to monitor our kids, and we still have a way. You get what I'm saying? Like, the access to technology nowadays is 500 times easier than it was when we were growing up. So the WWE could get away to getting to that line and teetering over it, but not stepping over it, right? You can't do that now. With there being such free access to pretty much everything adult-wise nowadays, you can't do it. And that's why we as wrestling fans can't keep tweaking about bringing back the Attitude Era, because first of all, you don't even have the wrestlers to even accomplish that. These guys can barely cut promos without scripts. What makes you think that they're going to be able to bring back and regenerate the Attitude Era? You can't. There's just certain things that you have to let go. And the Attitude Era happens to be one of those things that we as people have got to let go. We have to. We don't have a choice. Darnell says social media's negative effect to society. Exactly. You think the WWE wants a Yelp review because, you know, you had some crazy bikini match like they did back in the day? No. The WWE does not want that heat. And I'll admit to this too. You know, for what it's worth, just like I said about in the 90s NBA compared to today's NBA, you know, for what it's worth, I think the girl wrestlers now are a little bit better than what they were. Like, think about it. Okay, don't get me wrong. Alita, Trish Stratus, Victoria, Natalia's still there, but I'll throw her in there. These are some of the better female wrestlers that you know, don't need all the extras. Like Sable, I don't think was that great of a wrestler. Chyna was. The problem was with Chyna, because she was so strong and muscular, it was not believable to put a title on her and think that any of these other girls could beat her. Like, she would have to have like one of those Fabulous Moolah like runs when Fabulous Moolah had the women's championship for like 900 years in a row. How that makes sense, I'll never get it. these girl wrestlers nowadays don't really need all the glitz and glamour that we saw during the Attitude Era. These are a lot of real talented. I mean, don't get me wrong, some of them are still dangerous, Nia Jax, but there are still some real talented wrestlers where you don't need to have to show off your assets to show how good of a wrestler you are. There's much more talent. Was there talent back then? Sure, just like in the 90s NBA. Now there's more. Plus, and this goes back to Darnell's point. Now that you have social media, you don't need all that on the camera when you can get the same photos that we were, or the same images that we got during the Attitude Era. You can get now on Instagrams, Twitters, Facebooks, and whatever else is out there. Snapchats, your snaps. You know? So no, you can't bring back the Attitude Era. You can make some tweaks to not make wrestling seem so predictable, but you can't bring back the Attitude Era. It was a fun era. We loved it. We enjoyed it. We can still, bring back the glory days, thanks to the WWE network, thanks to Peacock, to whatever they may have not have, bleeded out. But still, you don't need that nowadays. Like, I can legit watch Bianca Belair take on Bayley and not sit here like some 20-year-old guy, like some 20-year-old version talking about, oh, I wish I could see. No, I mean, come on, dude. You don't need it. You don't need to push it like that, So, but like I said, I like what the WWE is doing. I really do. Especially with SmackDown. But having that Bobby Lashley versus Kofi Kingston match and the way they ended SmackDown, I thought was really cool. As Playoff P just hits a 3 and the Clippers have stormed all the way back to take a 2-point lead with 8:53 left in the game. Some exciting basketball going along. Not to forget that the Celtics take on the Nets later on today. And Luka going for the step back 3 or try to hit that from San Jose, sweet mamacita, and 1. So, good game going on in Los Angeles between Dallas and LA, if you're not watching that. I do want to get into some baseball real quick. Man, I've been on for an hour and 15. I'm telling you, dude, this never gets old, man. It never gets old. It never gets old. Doing this stuff never gets old. I love every minute of it. Baseball, we're about a month and a half now into baseball, and everything's starting to shaping up. We've had 6 no-hitters so far. And everyone's sitting there like, man, how come the no-hitters are going up? How come the no-hitters are going up? I'll tell you what I personally think it is. I think the problem is the umpires. Now, hold on. Now, let me let me explain my case. When you have inconsistent umpiring, it is an automatic advantage to the pitcher. Because if the batter has to go up and what he knows isn't a strike, the umpire decides is a strike, you just now gave the pitcher 2 more inches to where a batter now has to get in defensive mode to swing, because what used to not be a strike all of a sudden now is a strike. See, baseball for the last 3 years keeps talking about how we're going to use this strike zone and how we're going to give clickers or these little hand buzzer signs to the umpires. So when we have our own strike zone, and whenever it goes through the strike zone, it will buzz and you will then have to call the strike. Remember, we talked so long about that, how that was supposed to come to fruition. And it hasn't, because you still have certain guys that are pitchers umpires. You have certain guys that are batters umpires, but I feel like there are more pitcher umpires than there are batter umpires. So when you give a pitcher 2 to 3 more inches off the plate, the pitcher now has an advantage. So the slider that you may have laid off on that usually used to be a ball, now you're going to chase because the umpire called it a strike, throws everything off whack. And I think that's kind of one of the reasons why I think that the hitting, there's been so many strikeouts and whatnot. I don't think it's the ball. I just think it's inconsistent umpiring. Nonetheless, though, that's not taken away from having, like, think about it. We've seen 6 no-hitters so far this year. And 3 teams have been no-hit twice. Cleveland, Texas, and Seattle. And the most recent one was Corey Kluber just the other day, earlier in the week, no-hit the Texas Rangers. And outside of one that one walk, Corey Kluber was pretty much lights out. And don't look now, but remember the Yankees about a month ago, when we were 2.5 weeks into the season, owned the worst record in the American League. They're now, right now, depending on what happens between, well, Boston still plays later and the Rays still play later, the Yankees can crawl into a half game behind the Boston Red Sox for first. Right now, they're tied with the Rays for second place. And by the way, let's not sit here and pretend like the New York Yankees, because here's the problem. I saw this today because everyone's talking about Tony La Russa, like you know, a lot of White Sox fans like, I'm not trying to take away from the win, but the White Sox had to blah, 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 blah. Don't give me that crap, because it's not like the Yankees just all of a sudden learn how to pitch the ball. The Yankees have won 5 games in a row. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in 5 of those games, they've given up what? 1 run? I know they gave up the 1 run to the White Sox yesterday, but prior to them giving up that 1 run, the Yankees hadn't given up a run in almost 30 plus innings. What the New York Yankees are doing right now to the Chicago White Sox isn't a result of Tony La Russa acting like an old dinosaur and getting mad at Yermin Mercedes for swinging at a 3-0 count. That's still in Tony La Russa's mind, because he's 80 and doesn't realize that it's 2021, that those unwritten rules are out of the wayward. If you don't want a man to hit a home run, don't be losing 20-1 and don't throw pitches over the plate. Don't get into 3-0 counts. You understand what I'm saying? So let's not use what's going on in the White Sox locker room as an excuse to why they're not scoring runs. They're not scoring runs because the New York Yankees pitching staff owns the best ERA in the league. And here's the scary part. The Yankees technically aren't even 100% in their pitching staff. We still don't have Darren O'Day. We still don't have Zach Britton. Crazy part, we still don't have Luis Severino. And if Jameson Taillon doesn't get his act together, he will be taking his spot. Think about that for a second. If, first of all, they're saying that Luis Severino's fastball has been around 95 to 97. That's where his fastball was before he had the Tommy John. So that's a good thing. Now he's going into the bullpen session, which I'm assuming is going to be happening the next day or two. So we keep an ear open for what's going on there. So the return of him still around June, maybe if not till the All-Star break, is still online. That's fine. The Yankees are still probably going to be doing their thing pitching wise. Jameson Taillon has struggled mightily. He struggles at home than he more does on the road. And I think Jameson Taillon goes tomorrow. And if the White Sox were going to sneak out a win, tomorrow would be it, depending on how Taillon pitches. But still, you have Davy Garcia that's killing it right now in AAA. And like I said, you still have no Zach Britton, which when Zach Britton comes back, and then you're going to add a 7, 8, 9, which in my opinion, if I was Aaron Boone, I would not be so quick to take Loaisiga out of that 8th spot. If you're going to tell me that you're going to come with Zach Britton in the 7th, Jonathan Loaisiga in the 8th, and the Aroldis Chapman in the 9th, that is a dangerous 7, 8, 9 piece of the bullpen. And the reason why that's so significant is because then you don't have to tax your starters per se until you get around that August when you're going to really stretch them out, because now you want to save your bullpen a little bit. And, it's that never-ending chess matchup. It's like a horse race that's 1 1/4 mile. You don't start getting happy when your horse is winning after the first turn. You got to keep your hopes up until they come around that final stretch to see what they could do. You get what I'm saying? And so that's kind of where I think the Yankees are at right now, where even with their injuries, and I know right now, like the Mets are getting killed with the injury bug right now. And they've had like one of the craziest seasons because they've had so many cancellations and everything going on their season, and they're making the best of it. But they've had some guys off to a slow start. Luis Rojas, I still think is kind of figuring some things out here and there and whatnot. DeGrom's hurt. Alonso's hurt. Syndergaard's still coming back. The Mets have been getting killed with injuries, and they're still trying to hold it together. But, one of my biggest points was, especially with the White Sox, is, it's crazy. You go out and play the New York Yankees. You're struggling against the New York Yankees, albeit the Yankees have one of, if not the best pitching staff in the American League. And the best thing that I can say is thank you for getting out of the AL Central. Funny, the competition gets a little bit tougher when you get out of that AL Central. Remember when the Minnesota Twins, everyone's like, oh, this team, I don't know. Okay, like look at it like this. Follow me on this. That's kind of almost like when a lot of, when we were talking about so many home runs. Why were the Minnesota Twins the best team in the American League 2 years ago? Remember, that's when they juiced up the balls. And then we were getting all this influx of home runs. Now they claim they deadened the balls. And now the Minnesota Twins really aren't hitting like they used to. Now, albeit they've got some big-time series injuries as well. But they're not the same team when they're not bombing home runs out. And that's one of the things that I want to tell other fellow Yankee fans that I think is very important, is the fact that there are some Yankee fans who get upset with the Yankees when they don't score runs. I'm actually one of the few Yankee fans that are actually happy that they're winning games this way, because when we're the Bronx Bombers and we're hitting 50 home runs in a game and we're about to break seasonal records that you never thought would ever be broken, and we're competing with the Twins for the home run lead and all that other stuff, when it comes down to playoff like baseball, the Yankees sometimes fluster because they don't know how to manufacture runs. But in these last few games, especially in these last two games against a team that coming into the weekend had the second best record, or actually was it the second best, if not the best record, second best, because I think the A's have the best record. So second best record in the entire American League, and you've only scored one run in two games, that's the Yankees winning, especially that first game was playoff-like. And Mac texted me yesterday, and he was like, man, this feels like a playoff-like atmosphere. This feels like a playoff-like, game. Yes, and I'm happy the Yankees found a way to pull it off, because that you can do it now in May. Then when June comes around, there's going to be those same games. There's going to be those games when you're not going to be popping 7-8 runs in a game. But what did the Yankees do today? Outside of Mike Ford, those 6 out of those 7 runs that the Yankees scored today were all via we're all via hits. Gleyber Torres, 2-run double. Gleyber Torres, another 2-run double. And then Rougned Odor had he had an RBI double that made it 5-0. And then Mike Ford made it 6-0. And then they scored another run to make it 7-0. So the Yankees right now, them not hitting home runs is good for me, because now I know this team can manufacture runs. That's why having a guy like Aaron Hicks and having Giancarlo Stanton not in the lineup, believe it or not, it's more of a blessing in disguise than you think, because now you have to play Tyler Wade, speed. Now you have to play Miguel Andujar, who, oh, by the way, is slowly but surely getting his way back up. Because you got to remember, you can't just expect Miguel Andujar, who's been struggling for so long, to just come out, go 0 for 4, maybe have 3 strikeouts and be like, okay, we'll send you back down and see if you can figure it out. Consistent at bats. That's the same thing I'll be feeling about Tyler Wade. Tyler Wade had a game against Baltimore where he went 3 for 4, but he played the previous 2 games. Consistent at bats. Now, Andujar is still a project, because Andujar right now is not. We all know he's not a left fielder, and we know that Gio Urshela more or less took his job, at third base. However, Miguel Andujar is still learning how to play left field. And we saw yesterday he had a blunder. He had another blunder today. I'm not sure if Miguel's going to play tomorrow unless they give somebody the day off. I don't know if he's going to play tomorrow per se. I hope he does, because I still want him to get those consistent at-bats. But tomorrow's game's going to be tough, because the Yankees have Jameson Taillon going, and if I'm not mistaken, I think the White Sox might have Lucas Giolito going, and Lucas Giolito is a much better pitcher than, he's good. He's really good. And the funny thing too about baseball is, everyone's like so upset because there's so much hype and hoopla around Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani, he's the tops in the major leagues in wow, Tim Hardaway Jr. with another 3. I'm sorry, that's Finney Smith. Excuse me, that's Finney Smith. He leads the league in home runs, and he's pitching so well. But look at Mike Trout, and everyone's so upset because Mike Trout has a good game, but the focus is on Shohei Ohtani. Who cares? We know Mike Trout is great. But when's the last time you've seen a guy who can go out and strike out 9 guys and then hit 3 home runs? Babe Ruth, he's been dead for almost a century. He's been said for years. We haven't seen anything like that. Either you're a hitter or you're a pitcher. You're not really both. I mean, think about it. You're not really both. So, you know, for everyone to get upset because Mike Trout may not be getting the props that he used to get, blah, 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 blah. It's stupid. Let Shohei on tiny shine. He's doing a fine job out there. I mean, LA sucks, but he's doing just fine. So I'm not gonna lie, man, dude. Luka Doncic right now is just throwing up bricks. 2 minutes right now left in the third, way off P with the miss. 103-100 Dallas right now with the lead, under 2 minutes here in the fourth quarter. I'll stay on for as long as this game stays on. As we got, don't forget there's NHL playoffs going on. Boston's up, 3-1 on the Caps. I think the Penguinos up 2-1 on the Fish Sticks or the Islanders. I didn't really get to talk. I didn't really get to talk with anyone when what happened with the New York Rangers, but there's so much animosity around what's going on with the New York Rangers because, the Rangers fired John Davison and Jeff Gordon a couple weeks ago after the press release came out about what happened with Tom Wilson and the suspension or the lack thereof of one. And everyone's like, oh man, it looked like a hockey play. That did not look like a hockey play, but whatever. And so they came out with a statement saying that we were disappointed. And everyone's like, oh, why would they fire him after making That's not why James Dolan fired him. James Dolan fired him. And I actually agree. This is what I think happened. What I think happened was James Dolan was upset that the Rangers didn't make the playoffs and didn't think that David Quinn was the right man for the job. So what he did was he probably went to John Davison and Jeff Gordon and said, we either find another coach or you guys find other jobs. And they argued and they fought for David Quinn, but it was pretty much not either he goes or you guys go. And they didn't want to fire him. So he fired him. And then moved Chris Drury up to the GM president role. And the first thing Chris Drury did after the Rangers season was over was fire David Quinn. That's what happened. I don't think it had anything to do with the press release. It had to do everything with the play of the Rangers. And everyone's like, oh my God, they're messing up the rebuild. Messing up the rebuild how? We were an almost playoff team 2 years ago, and then we were a COVID playoff team last year. And the Rangers, Ranger fans give me so much gas sometimes because I don't understand what the thought process of going through from a Rangers perspective. I don't know why a lot of fans want to hoard so many kids and act like we can't get rid of them when we need a superstar player. The Rangers need a center in the worst way possible. And the name that seems to keep surrounding the New York Rangers is Jack Eichel. But of course, here comes the negative Nancy Ranger fan. Well, Jack Eichel just came off of neck surgery. Okay, respect on that. You might want to be a little leery. But you can drive the price down because of that. Think about it. Jack Eichel needing neck surgery, that hurt the Buffalo Sabres more than it hurts anybody else. Because now everyone is thinking to themselves exactly what I said. We could drive down the price. What could have been 3 first-round draft picks, 2 kids and maybe a veteran for a Jack Eichel and maybe some contentious-appory pick, some random 5th round pick. Now it might just be a 1st rounder, maybe a prospect, maybe a veteran. Do you understand what I'm saying? And Ranger fans will be like, no, we can't trade, like a Vitaly Kraskov. We can't trade a Capo Caco. We can't trade no draft picks. We can't trade this because we can't trade like this guy's available, that guy's available. We can pay for this guy. Trade the kids, bro, if they're not going to play. What did the white guy say in Hustle and Flow when DJ went to go buy the microphone? If you want quality, you got to pay for it. Dude, if we want a good center that could take us over the top, we got to pay for it. And it means you got to trade a couple of pieces for the future and worry about the now. If you're going to give me a center now who probably after next surgery is going to be right back to his normal self for a few ifs when it comes to the kids, I'm okay with that. But we can't keep sitting on our hands, waiting for these kids to come along. You didn't sign Artemi Panarin to that big contract to what was going to happen 4 years down the road. That's just like there's these talks about bringing in Peke Rinne. And the same negative Nancy Ranger fans. You can't trade for Peke Rinne or bring in Peke Rinne because he's not that good and we already have a goalie. Newsflash, geniuses, when Igor Shesterkin was on his role before the COVID really shut down sports in 2020, Igor Shesterkin, behind the tutelage of Henrik Lundqvist, was one of the better goalies in the league. Darnell says, missed free throws, bit the Clips, Mavs win. Missed free throws, clutch shots. Clutch threes from Finney Smith, clutch threes from Tim Hardaway Jr., clutch dunks by Kristaps Porzingis, clutch going to the hole by Tim Hardaway Jr., missed shots by Way Off P, missed shots by Kawhi Leonard. This is why I said Dallas can upset the Los Angeles Clippers. This is why I'm saying Los Angeles is stupid for losing games and momentum going into the playoffs, because then you come out flat on your home court like this. And now you're about to lose game 1. The Mavericks came into Los Angeles, into the Staples Center, and did exactly what they were supposed to do. Meanwhile, Luka Doncic just posted a triple-double. 31 points, 10 rebounds, 11 assists. Like, hello? I don't understand that concept. That's it's stupid when people are like, oh, if you would have lost the game, then you would have known what it would taste like to lose. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Why would I want to lose a game so I have a taste of how I feel to look? So if I'm an NCAA team and I went 38-0 and blew right through my conference tournament, you're going to tell me the reason why we lost the game was because I didn't know what losing was like? It's the stupidest thing that anyone can ever say in sports. It's stupid. I will, to this day, never understand what the logic is behind that. Man, if you would have just lost that game, then you would have had a taste of what losing is like. Man, with your dumb ass. I mean, especially the NCAA tournament, because if all I do is win and it's one and done, what does a loss do to help me in the tournament? I'm in it to win it. Not in here to suffer L's. I don't know, man. I don't get certain mindsets. That one I'll never get. That one makes no sense. It doesn't. It doesn't make not one lick of sense. I ain't gonna lie with you. Oh yeah, that's right. You know what? Maybe I'll wait till Mac comes back next week. Mac's supposed to be back next week. The NFL schedules did come out. I'll wait till Mac comes back and then we'll dissect the NFL schedules and we'll talk about that next week. I also want to thank everybody who, while I still have I still have a few minutes because I basically have touched on everything I want to touch on. We talked a lot of NBA playoffs. We talked some wrestling with what's going on. We talked MLB baseball, and let me not forget, the AL East has what 4 teams over 20 wins, over 500, and then the National League West. We saw the Giants and the Dodgers. They started off their series, and then the Yankees and Red Sox. They start off, I think, like either next week or the week after. They don't play, but they play 19 times. And we got a few months left. So, and I like that. I like, bringing that rivalry, and it goes down to the last minute. That's why I don't know if you remember a few years back when they were doing when they do the Subway Series, and I remember when the Mets and the Yankees played, and they had the Mets and Yankees played in Yankee Stadium in June, and then they didn't play again till like the second week of September, and I remember it was like a playoff like atmosphere, and the Yankees went out there and swept the Mets clean out of Citi Field, and the Yankees, I think that was 2017, and I think that's the year when they went all the way to Game 7 of the ALCS that year. And they need to bring that back. This 2-game series, like with the Crosstown Cup and the Subway Series and the LA rivalry and the Bay Area rivalry between the I almost said the 49ers, the Giants and the A's and all that stuff. You need to bring that back to where they play 3 more games in September. I don't need all AL games because it is almost impossible to pull it off. But you're going to tell me you're going to give me 3 games in Yankee Stadium to be like, hey, we'll see you in September, and then come back. And there's a great chance that the Mets and the Yankees are going to be in some kind of playoff contention come September. You kidding me? He said Marcus Morris missed 2 free throws. Kawhi missed 2 free throws. Rondo missed a free throw, all in the 4th. Yeah, and a lot of missed threes. That's why I'm saying, dude, you can't limp into the playoffs and then think everything's going to be sweet because you're trying to play chess with the world champs. The world champs are just trying to fight for their lives just to stay in and defend the championship. You need to be on your own road. Why the Clippers are so worried about what the Lakers are doing are almost as equivalent as why Met fans are always such in the heads of the Yankees. Met fans have the Yankees, Met fans have the Yankees live rent-free in their heads for the longest. Like, y'all should have other fish to fry. And that's how I feel about the Clippers. Like, you're trying to play chess moves with the Lakers. The Lakers aren't even trying to play chess. They're like, damn, we still got to try and get in it, man. So you limp into the playoffs. Stupid. That was stupid. But what I was saying, and I want to take a couple of minutes, I want to thank everyone that reached out this past week. It has been a very emotional week for myself. As many as you guys know, I had to put down my dog of 12 years, little Oreo. He ultimately got old and got sick, and so we had to put him down. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I didn't do a show last week, and I tried to do a show during the middle of the week, but that's kind of when it all happened. So I'm definitely at peace with it right now. I'm doing much better. I want to thank everyone that reached out and made sure everything was good. But yeah, no, I've been taking everything day by day, And, my wonderful girlfriend has been here, the entire step of the way, making sure that I'm good and stuff. And, I can't thank her enough for being there for me and for you guys being out there for me and let me vent and talk and you guys listen. And I feel so much better being able to talk. It's something that, as a man that I usually don't do, but it's something that I'm getting better at. And, being able to express my feelings and stuff. So I just want to give really great gratitude to everybody that reached out during this past week, during a difficult time in our family. But, I talked to my mom, I've been keeping in touch with her, with everything that had been going on with little Oreo, and, she's getting better. So to everyone that's reached out to her and the family and myself and everything, again, I say thank you to the bottom of my heart. I appreciate you guys. And like I said, dude, I'm at peace with it now. I wasn't at peace with it at first. And, I realized that I was going to miss them. But, I got plenty of memories. And I got plenty of pictures and stuff. And, not to get into anything personal per se, but, I just found peace that, that Oreo is now, with my first dog, and those of you guys know me know how much I love Lucky as well. And God pretty much let me know that Oreo's in good hands, and Oreo's let me know that he's okay, and I'm at peace. I am at 100% peace. This time last week, I couldn't talk about this and not cry, and this time I could talk about it. And am I emotional about it? Of course I am. That was my little buddy, but I know that he's at peace, and it put me at peace. So again, I just want to say thank you to everybody that really reached out and during this tough week. So but yeah, to be honest with you, that's all I have for this week. I wanted to try and catch up with a lot of stuff, and with the the play-in tournament kind of coming and going, and the playoffs starting today, and having 2 amazing games, and we still have 2 more to go. So, yeah, really looking forward. I think the next game is what? I think it's Boston and in Brooklyn, I think is next. So definitely looking forward to that game. And then we got a full slate of games tomorrow, which includes my boys taking on the Atlanta Hawks. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to sweeping the White Sox tomorrow. All kinds of things going on. And like I said, I think Mac's back next week. I know he was out taking care of stuff for work. He's been a busy man. And plus, let's also not forget, Mac's going, through Ramadan. So, I try to respect him, while he's going through his fast. But, we do text back and forth, and he's doing great. And, I know it's been a couple weeks since you guys have seen him, but Mac's doing great. And obviously, Steve's on the other side. So, he's doing decent. So, everything's going good. To let everybody know, it's been a couple weeks since you've seen us, but we'll probably have the whole band together next week. Next week, we'll continue to talk more baseball. We'll dive deeper into NBA and NHL. We'll talk a little bit more wrestling. There's a fight night tonight. Cody Garbrandt is fighting tonight. So check that out. UFC Fight Night is later on tonight. What I say, NHL, MLB, NBA playoffs. We'll break down the NFL schedule next week. So expect a full show from us next week. And we'll be looking forward to you guys next week. Again, thank you to everyone that watched the show. Make sure that you guys check us out wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, iTunes. Leave us a review. Let us know you like us. We've been doing really good. I like the content that we have. And, as a matter of fact, you are now stepping into Gemini season, and this is my time to shine because my birthday, as a matter of fact, my girlfriend's birthday and my birthday are one day apart. So it's going to be a full fun weekend coming up here pretty soon. But until then, it's Gemini season, and definitely looking forward to it. And so, yeah, like us go to YouTube, look for PodRiver. Subscribe to us on PodRiver, and you will always get notifications when it shows up on YouTube. Find us on Facebook. Find us on iTunes. Find us on Spotify. Like us, share us, get us out there, get us on the word. get some new fresh talent, fresh blood. That's what Mac and I do, man. We try and bring it fresh to you guys all the time, and definitely having fun out here. So we will see you guys next week. We should have the whole band together, and go Knicks, go Yankees. And hopefully the Rangers hire Gallant, and the Rangers will be automatically in the playoffs come next year. Damn right. So for Steve and for Mac, I'm also Negro saying so long, and we'll see you guys next week.